Good morning and welcome to another Auto Media Group Weekly Wrap. I think number 27 or 28. I don't know. You'd have to look at the little thing above the video for that one. Now,
29,
probably a...
Richard. Good morning.
Oh, wow. Probably a slightly funny one in regards to quality today, just because they have decided to take the power off in Mangawhai, or at least my part of Mangawhai, for the day while they put some new houses or connections or something in. Yeah, hopefully you can hear me well. It's why I'm wearing the headphones and there's no light, blah, blah, blah. I don't look good anyway. You don't need light anyway. Now, joining me...
Just pay the power bill.
Now, joining me is the dealer with the mostest, Mr. Graham McDonald. Thanks for joining us, Graham.
Good morning. Yep, thank you very much once again from the wild West Auckland.
And not joining us is Matthew Hansen, because he's actually off in Melbourne today. The lucky little bugger is over there trying out the Mercedes-Benz EQB. So another 7-seat electric vehicle option on the market. Taken a while for them to get here, but yeah, that's another great one that we'll ask him a little bit about next week. Get his quick thoughts on that car. But let's kick off with the news, and we're going to stick with Australia. Weirdly, because this is a New Zealand industry dealer podcast. I think this one is really interesting and shows something's gone horribly wrong somewhere in this case. And you may not know about this story, Graham, so I'd be interested to get your reaction to it. So we got great news. Yeah, we got some great news earlier in the week. The BYD Atto 3 received a 5-star NCAP rating. But for New Zealand only. In Australia, they have had their rating held back for a somewhat concerning reason. The BYD Atto 3 EV got a 5-star safety rating in Europe and New Zealand, but it's reported the rating is on hold in Australia while inquiries are made about potential compliance breach. The questions were raised over the vehicle's actual legality for use in Australia by some titles over in that market. Lawyers representing the distributor, which is EV Direct or Nextport, have told media that the vehicle has been certified as a 5-seat passenger vehicle. That's fine. It is a 5-seat passenger vehicle, 5 seatbelts. But it lacks a top tether child restraint anchor point in the center position in the back seat, a requirement for 5-seat passenger vehicle compliance in Australia. While the BYD does have 2 ISOFIX child seat latches. Hang on, I'm just going to pause your audio there for a minute, Graham, because it's quite noisy where you are. While the BYD does have 2 ISOFIX child seat latches with corresponding tether mounts in each outboard rear seating position, it is reportedly missing the top tether in the middle seat. The Department for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications and the Arts, responsible for motor vehicle approvals in Australia, says passenger vehicles entering Australia are currently assessed to get to the standard for the child restraint anchorages and fittings as set out in ADR 34/03. The department recently granted a vehicle type approval for that BYD Atto 3 to be provided in Australia. The department granted this approval after considering the information, including declarations that BYD Auto Co. Limited provided with its application. So, there's a couple of aspects to this. One, congratulations BYD New Zealand for getting a 5-star. You've done everything right. Let's make sure that we make it very clear this is not an issue relating to Ateco Motors New Zealand, distributor of BYD. I don't think it's necessarily a issue relating to BYD in China potentially, though they may have played a role in this. But the issue with this tether point is that this is quite a serious rule in Australia, and cars there have been stripped of their 5-seat status. A prime example being the launch of the new Honda HR-V recently for not having a tether point. So the question is whether BYD in Australia supplied information to the certifying authorities incorrectly stating that the car had the 3 ISOFIX points, or what, or whether there's been some kind of misunderstanding. The backside to this is that unless they can come up with some interesting workaround for this or bring the cars in to re-engineer the cars, all those vehicles that have been delivered in Australia, and there are hundreds at the moment, potentially are no longer compliant for driving on the road in Australia. And also the hundreds they have on their way there and in the country potentially are not compliant for Australia. So, Graham, if you were a BYD Australia dealer, or it's technically one big dealer there, or person who works in the delivery thing, would you be contemplating the fact at the moment you're going to have to about call all these companies that they have waited longer than they expected for their new cars, and have them recalled back to them because they're missing a tether point in the centre seat?
Well, I mean, first of all, yes, I'd better be a very nervous morning. I'll be having a coffee. I mean, this is not unheard of. Like you said, the HRV was a good example of that, but it's also a good example
Numerous
of the complexity of Australian rules. Now, can I be a little bit cynical and say here, is this a little example of a rush to market of a product? And at the moment, we're seeing a lot of new products coming to market, I mean, globally, but particularly within the EV space, and that's where all the hot action's happening. And there's a real rush to get product into markets. Is this a case where something's been missed? Where, I don't know. Let's not apportion blame here, but somebody somewhere has made an error. Is this just in haste to bring a product to market, or is it literally a case of a lack of interpretation by the local teams on the ground in Australia to their parents back in China? I mean, something's gone badly wrong here.
Well, this is the interesting thing, is that it's look, that car, it still meets all the standards for Europe and everywhere else. It's and it didn't just get a 5-star; it got a very good, solid point scoring 5-star. And that the question comes is, someone should have known this. It should have been someone at BYD Australia, arguably. Well, I've got to stop saying BYD Australia. I think we'll say EV Direct. They are the distributor in Australia. The question is whether they knew this and whether they just basically got it over the line, or somehow, or they didn't know and it's a genuine mistake. Now, to me, either of those outcomes are bad. Either of those outcomes indicate some form of incompetence. And that's the danger. And look, I think EVDX done a great job in what they've got in Australia, the price and so forth. But, they were very bullish about, in the early days, about not, traditional models are a thing. We love Tesla, do it, all that kind of stuff. Tesla didn't get this wrong. This is something that distributors in Australia have done before, and it's not something that's unknown. The issues where it has happened, where they've had to make cars 4-seaters, have hardly been kept quiet. They've been, a part of discussion. They've made the media. It's just something that they deal with. And yeah, I think it's really concerning that they've missed this, and what else have they missed?
Interestingly, Richard, is, and again, this is being really careful not to sort of lay any brickbats at New Zealand, because like you've said, the New Zealand distributors have done everything right with the product they've got. But it highlights what a complex market Australia is globally to play in. I think Australia is almost unique in some respects. And being this relatively small nation, and I'm sorry for all Australians watching right now, but in the global automotive sense, it's a small little minnow, and yet it maintains the complexities of ADRs and all the things that actually make this a really difficult market to work in for any global manufacturer. And it's, I think, one of the reasons why we don't see some of the product coming to New Zealand on a new basis that we possibly could, because the distributors or the manufacturers find the Australian market just too difficult to work through. And we know New Zealand's just an extension of Australia. If they get it in Australia, we're going to get it. If they don't, chances are we won't either, with a few people.
Oh, that cuts both ways. That cuts both ways. I mean, Australia we get some stuff that Australia doesn't, and we certainly have in the past, either because companies could take a Japanese spec or a Irish spec or something like that, particularly in that EV space. You look back at things like, we had fairly consistent availability of a Corolla wagon in New Zealand. Australia didn't have one for, I think, 2 generations of Corolla, because we were able to take a Japanese spec, things like that. So yeah, it's like,
I said by and large, you look at Nissan, for example, where one of the reasons we lacked the Nissan Leaf for so long as a new product here was it wasn't available in Australia for a variety of different reasons. We are essentially an extension of Australia in a lot of different markets, and Australia's a toughie, and it shouldn't be. And I play in Australia, as you know, with the work we're doing with Ainvia over there. We know how complex a process, and I would argue and say completely and needlessly complex, that marketplace from a compliance perspective actually is. And I have a lot of sympathy for BYD Australia and try to work that through. But as we came back to it, someone somewhere, the rules are the rules are the rules. Someone's missed something.
Yeah.
And it could be serious.
So the saving grace to an extent is our understanding, and we're actually going to go and poke around in our BYD this weekend. We understand there is actually a third tether point behind the fabric on the back of the seat. But it is whether they can get that certified and engineered and then bring the vehicles back in and open up the hole in the back of the seat. It's a crazy thing, and I'd be interested to see whether from the next 24 hours or so we see a pause on delivery of BYD into Australia, which will be sad for those buyers who've been waiting so long. They've had so many promises made, and hopefully EV Direct can get that sorted fairly soon. Now let's get on to someone in hot water slightly closer to home. A dealer is in hot water after selling a faulty Audi with their personal Trade Me account. And you pretty much know 90% of that story from the headline because you just know not to do that. But it's always just a good reminder.
Rinse and repeat, Richard, isn't it? Rinse and repeat story.
Yeah. Newland car dealer Nicole Kerr, director of What Next Cars Limited, has been ordered by the Motor Vehicle Disputes Tribunal to refund a customer the price of a 2011 Audi A4 Avant following mechanical faults in the vehicle and confusion over liability. The tribunal found that Kerr listed the vehicle for sale using his personal Trade Me account and posing as selling it on behalf of someone else. That the someone else turned out to be the vehicle's first owner, had bought it from Kerr's dealership several months prior, only to return it suddenly. When the second owner we wonder why they returned it. When the second owner encountered significant gearbox issues with the car, Kerr denied liability. The tribunal believed that the car was likely initially returned due to mechanical issues, siding with the customer and ordering the dealer to use a refund.
Where's the surprise in this, Richard? I mean, come on, really, where's the surprise? And again, I don't mean to sort of bang on about the trade in general and whether people are doing the right things or the wrong things, but it's not the first time it's happened. It stinks all the way like a garbage tip. You know what's happened. Everyone knows what's happened. The fact that they've been caught is probably the only good part out of it, because all the rest of the 98% of legitimate traders out there who do things properly, we end up getting tarred with that brush. So the actions of one, we get somebody coming in saying, you car dealers, and you sell your duds off to your mates, and your mates flicking off at the car fair, and you're all a bunch of crooks. We hear that all the time, and it's because of muppets like this. You know what they've done. Case closed, my love.
The big question is, and this thing that pisses me off, is where's MB in this? Where is the enforcement team? I'm sorry, but this kind of stuff is just blatantly avoiding the rules, and they should be slapped with a fine or potentially worse. But nothing will happen. MB will not sniff around this. They will not do it.
No.
I'm entirely sick of MB. You guys know my ongoing battles with an Auckland trader who deals in vans, who I won't name this time. And MB's banned him a couple of times, and then we've gone to them multiple times, I think, saying they're still trading. Nothing happens. It turns up last week again, they're trading again, and person was scared about the situation. It's just
whack-a-mole. It's a game of whack-a-mole, isn't it?
I'm sorry, MB, but you're appalling and you're useless. And I might actually start writing that a bit more just to remind them of that. Motor vehicle spending down in September. Although most industries saw a gain in retail spending in September, according to Stats NZ, the motor vehicle sector was not one of them. According to the group's latest retail card spending figures, spending on motor vehicles was down 1.8 million with seasonal adjustments in September. The news dovetails with ongoing concerns among dealers, particularly used car dealers, around the confidence in the economy amid rising inflation and cost of living concerns. Doesn't seem like a big drop to me, but I think that's seasonally adjusted, so it's we're down despite the fact that in the market, despite the fact that like this time last year we were, for the last stats month, we were still kind of in lockdown for part of it, or at least restricted trading. So it ain't good out there, is it, Graham?
It's not good out there. No, it has been super quiet now, and worryingly so. I would say if you're looking at how you're going to operate your month in October for your business, my glib advice is just sort of put a big red line underneath October now. It's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be great. And look at building up towards the November Christmas market, because the people just aren't there. There's just not a lot of confidence out there. There's not a lot of people on the ground shopping. Finance is just still as difficult as it ever was to try to attain. So we're seeing, for example, a lot more unqualified people in the market. And it always seems to be the case when things are a bit tough, you find that your qualified buyers that are purchasing a vehicle well cashed up, looking for something really nice, they've gone. And you end up with the, I don't want to call it the dregs, but the people that have perhaps dubious credit, need a car because the old one's broken, but the old one's still on HP and it's worth about a third of what it has currently left on balance, and they've got some adverse credit, and one of them's not working, and the other one was working, but now they're not, and they've got some defaults. That's what tends to turn up when it's a bit tricky at the moment, and it makes it a little more frustrating for dealerships in that you do all the right things, you put all the cars out, you put all the flags out, do some great marketing, have some really good deals on your stock, but the buyers just are not there. We're just going to have to sit tight, unfortunately. I think that's the message for October, is just sort of hold on to your pants, sit down. It's going to get better in November.
Let's go back to some good news. New dealership opens doors. Construction of Rangiora Motor Group's premises on Southbrook Road, Rangiora, has finally been completed. The site is home to Rangiora Mitsubishi and Rangiora Nissan, having been open since December. Construction finished up late last month with the addition of Nissan and Mitsubishi pylon signs on the roadside. Meanwhile, BYD continues to make inroads in the New Zealand market, having recently opened its doors to its new Ebbett Tauranga dealership. The site sits on 3rd Avenue, across the road from LDV's campervan site. The Tauranga site is one of 3 BYD branches that opened in September, alongside sites in Dunedin and Botany. Aside from the troubles in Australia, I think 2 of those 3 brands are brands I think anyone would be happy to have at the moment, Mitsubishi and BYD. You are delivering with those brands. One last story, and back to a naughty one. Tesla NZ sold a stained and damaged car as new. Tesla's local arm has been ordered by the Motor Vehicle Disputes Tribunal to clean and repair a new Model 3 sold to a customer earlier this year. Resolved in July, tribunal documents detail the case of one Tesla Model 3 buyer who obtained one of the popular plug-ins from Tesla New Zealand, only to find the car to be stained and damaged. The buyer noted that they found a coffee stain in the driver's side footwell carpet, scratches on the front bumper and under tray assembly, a scratched wheel cover, a black mark on the ceiling liner, a scrape on the boot lining, creased leather on the driver's seat, and scratches on the wing mirrors. Now, if we're going to give Tesla some props, since they switched to Chinese production, Model 3s have gone from being a terribly built car to a brilliantly built car. Let's say that. What do you think happened in this case? Was this one of the apprentices in the workshop hanging out in the car during his lunch break or something?
Yeah, well, a bit more than his pie crumbs, I'd say, listening to the description and stuff. When the story broke, I read through it and I thought, all that's missing from this story is the feel-good factor, where Tesla New Zealand should have said, I'm really sorry about that, but I've got another one here that we just prepared earlier. Here's your new car instead. In the used vehicle trade, we're dealing in $15,000, $20,000 vehicles, and hell come down upon you like a rain of banshees if there's a scratch on the car the customer didn't notice. Somehow, buying a brand new Tesla, though, it's all okay. Send the customer off, tell them we're a little precious about it. I thought this was possibly actually an opportunity lost for Tesla to end up saying, you know what, don't know what happened, shouldn't have happened, we're going to make it right, here's another car. Because if I was a customer for that brand new car, and I should point out, I've never bought a brand new car in my life, so I'm not quite sure how the whole experience works. But my parents-in-law recently did, and I know how exciting that process was. I know what a big deal it was. Some of you buy new cars every year. Good on you. But if this is a really big purchase for you that you've perhaps been saving up for 4 or 5 years, and it turns up in that shape, it deflates the whole experience like you wouldn't believe. And I don't think any excuse is going to cut it. Another car, because what they're thinking in their mind is not only what they can see, but what they can't see that's happened to that car. Has the thing done a couple of laps of the Rally of New Zealand? Did it get used as a demo around the old Pukekohe circuit first, a couple of journos on board? Who knows? You don't know, but all you know is it's substandard, sorted out, different car, please.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's something that I think a lot of people there who have dealt with selling electric vehicles, particularly from the Challenger brands, they draw in so many first-time new car buyers, and from what I've seen online, they are, you'd think it'd be the other way around, but they seem to be way pickier, I think, than traditional new car or fleet buyers, simply because I think to them, the investment is so much bigger. You know, they've never bought a new car before. It's a giant step up. It's
Yeah.
their pride and
Yeah.
joy. These are people a lot of the time who to spend $70,000 on a new car was just unheard of until the appeal of electrification came along. You've got to make sure you give them that great experience. I gather that's been a source of frustration to some people in that. I'm sorry to bring back BYD into the discussion. We're not all about BYD here, but Tesla have had these habits in the past of doing bulk deliveries, and I think now in a lot of the cases you go to the distribution site where they have a pickup center set up, and it's a little bit of a better experience now. But for a while it was muddy car parks and that kind of stuff. And I believe BYD were really careful here to make sure people got proper deliveries. Because, first time new car buyers, all of them, or first time to the brand. And that was frustrating for some people, I think, particularly in Wellington. They were struggling to put through the volume they'd like because they wanted that experience. But, and as I've had with my wife when we, bought new cars for the first time, or late model cars for the first time, for people who aren't like us in the industry who jump in a new car every week, that delivery experience, that first car experience, that getting something that's crisp and new is just... It's almost as much of a deal as getting the car, I think. And dealerships just need to really make sure they are on form when it comes to that kind of setup.
Agreed.
Excellent. Well, that is my opinion for what it's worth. Bit of a weird up and down show there today. Let's just finish off with discussing some stuff that's coming up in the next week or so. So, AutoTalk magazine has come out this week. Go jump on that. We have in there a story about why the heck we do not have the details yet for the clean car standard. The minister and the NZ, when Waka Kotahi seemed to be playing a little bit of a game on that one. They issued me basically the same statement, which is interesting because I thought that the agency and the minister were a little more separate than the agency and the minister and the ministry. So, yeah, their denials are in concert there. Simeon Brown from National is calling for a delay. As I suspect pretty much everyone in the industry.
I think everybody is, aren't they?
Yeah. People have said to me, and this is a little bit beltway, is that the minister probably knows it needs to happen. I believe the Waka Kotahi may have asked for it to happen too. The minister will not let it happen because of other backdowns that the government's had to make recently, and they don't want to keep making backdowns or changing plans or so on and so forth. It would not be a good look. So unfortunately, we're suffering because of their issue with GS, with some various tax things and other rules that got backed away from. So fun. That's that.
You know my thinking on that.
Go for it.
I said there's no point repeating it. You know my thinking on the whole thing. It's just we're suffering on the basis of so bad law, bad practices, bad law because somebody doesn't want to end up with coffee on the front of their shirt again.
Yeah. Yep. That's right. So, yeah, it's not good. And then now next week on Tuesday we will be issuing the full final, subject to change, schedule for AutoTalk Live. We'll send that on the usual email channels we have and on our social. We have one more speaker to announce. They are an awesome speaker, really going to be insightful for business. Highly recommend you jump in on that. We have had a big rush of ticket sales in the last week, so please jump on autotalk.co.nz live. Get your tickets now before you risk missing out. I don't want anyone missing out who really wants to come. It is going to be a great day. You're going to get to have a beer with us. You're going to get some amazingly insightful information. We're going to have things like, basically we've got a consultant who charges distributors a lot of money to help them with things like the clean car. He's going to come and talk you through it. All that kind of stuff. So valuable, worth every cent of the ticket price, even just in the refreshments alone. So that's November 11. Get your tickets now. Everything out next week. You'll see Graham and I there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please like, subscribe, post this on your Facebook page, whatever you think. It's such great content. And we'll see you back here next Friday for more AutoTalk Weekly Wrap.
More stunning news. See you then.